things. Most guitar players have a bag of licks, you know, they're used to certain things and they just use them wherever. But my dad really just spontaneously composed, and that's a whole other category, and it takes a lifetime to try to get that kind of vocabulary together. So I might be more technically proficient with certain things, but in terms of the overall ability to just make stuff up on the spot and have a broad vocabulary, I still have some ways to go, you know, to catch up. Yes, you, sir, yes, sure. So the question, if you couldn't hear, he asked if the sonic layering is easier now compared to what my dad used to make the sounds. And in some ways, yes, because so much stuff is made to be able to replicate the sound of lots of other equipment. So you might be able to have many more sounds at your fingertips in a smaller assortment of stuff. But my dad always plugged things in different ways and used, you know, his guitar differently. Most of the time, especially in the middle 70s when he was getting real creative with stuff, his guitars had built-in preamps and EQs and things, so it really changed how it would interact with equipment. So on this tour, I'm actually using some of his guitars, so it, in some ways, it's easier to get some of the sounds, but the problem is, like, let's say I'm playing one of his guitars and I was to break a string, I suddenly pick up another guitar, it sounds nothing like that, so now I will be having a hard time to match the sound. That's why I have a bunch of different pedals here in case I have to do something like that. I would be able to change the gain and do things, but it's still like it takes a lot of time and effort to go through and create the layers and textures. Yes? Well, this is the first time I've ever taken it on the road and played it, and that particular guitar is probably my favorite of the ones because he used it on so many records and he must have really liked it because it went through so many iterations. The first version of that guitar, it had the P90 pickups in it and it had a vibrato tailpiece, but he kept messing with the guitar and changed it around, and now it looks different than it did on the Roxy because TWA, the now defunct airline, had done some modifications to it, and it ended up with a big crack in the middle of the body, so he ended up putting that pickguard over it and some other electronics in it because it became an experimental guitar at that point with the big crack in it. So. He didn't have that in this one. He had that in the Hendrix Strat. Oh, cool. I could do that. Yeah, I'll do that at the end there. Yeah. So, any other questions? Yes, over here, sir.
What kind of music do you listen to when you're not?
Well, I don't get a chance to listen to a lot of music when I'm not playing music. I used to, but it just seems like there's not enough hours in the day to be able to do that. But I have been doing, prior to putting this tour back together, I started doing some stuff where in my studio, I started working on Atmos mixing and different stuff like that. So one of the projects I did was the Deep Purple Machine Head album. I remixed it in stereo and Atmos. And so that was probably the most other music I got to listen to in a long time, was working on that. But that was fun because I got to hear all the individual tracks and see what was on there and make a whole new thing with it. Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah.